for joining me here for this review of two items that I bought from Boobsshop. The first one are these breastplate, which is the size D with the gel filler, and the other item I've got are these hip pads which I'm wearing today. Now in this video I'm going to take you through some unboxing that I did last week, which will give you an idea of how they come, how they're sort of packaged, what it's like to receive these for the first time, and then have a look as we go through today how I'd wear these with different items, kind of talking through some of the styles of dresses that I have and what will and will not work with this kind of breastplate. I'll go through with you specifically how I have applied the kind of choker to hide certain items, things to watch out for and things to be aware of when you're buying dresses if you do want to make sure that any seams are invisible or are not immediately obvious. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video and we'll get on with the unboxing. Today I'm going to do the unboxing of an item which I've just had delivered. For some time now I've been thinking about getting a new pair of hip pads. The hip pads I have are adhesive. They've lasted about 4 years. They've got a few nicks and tears around the edges, but they're still really good. They work kind of fine, but they've got to that point where the adhesion's no longer strong enough to actually keep them sticking to me, but it's just strong enough to be irritating so you can't sort of move them around freely and easily if you want to adjust them. So they're kind of in a sort of difficult position at the moment. They're not ideal, but you know, I'm still making do with them. But I was in the market for a new pair of hip pads and I reached out to Jean at Boobsshop. I'd seen what she had, they looked really good, and I thought I'd give them a try. I understood something about how she makes them, etc. I thought would be interesting, and yeah, so I thought I'd take a little look at that and see what they had in stock. Now, having spoken to Jean, we had a conversation about the breastplates as well, and she sent me an item that I can review for you today. So I've got the item that I actually wanted to buy, so I've got the hip pads. And I've also got another item which I should be able to talk through and give you an idea of. So this is the box that arrived. So if we see here, this is the box that has arrived. It's come all the way from Russia, nicely taped up and sealed so that no one can get into this. I've had no issues with customs, delivery whatsoever. It's taken, about a week to get here from Russia, which is fantastic. So super happy about this. All come through as was intended, and I'm looking forward to having a little look at this one. So let's have a look inside here. So as usual with Jean, we have a load of packing peanuts. And everything else is bubble wrapped inside. So I don't know what's going to be on top, but we'll have a look and see what we get out of here. I'm going to do my best to remove this without getting these peanuts everywhere. So as you can see, nice, secure packaging. Nothing's going to get damaged in here. So we have two items. This is the first. So let's unwrap the black plastic first. Made in Russia. You can slide this out of here. So this will be the hip pads. If it's the breastplate, then I'll be very concerned. So let's have a look at this. Now, wow, okay. So first thing to say is that these are huge compared to my normal ones. So you can see these are the large hip pads. So first thing to say is it's a lot bigger in terms of size. The ones that I wear today are probably sort of this kind of size inside. So you're probably taking around about 2 inches off the outside of this. This should give a much bigger shape around the thigh in general. Where I struggle with my hip pads at the moment is that mine they have a very sort of narrow point. They're kind of shaped like a map of Africa. You know, not that dissimilar to this, that kind of long tail and then the sort of chunky top. But they do not have an awful lot of actual material. So they really don't curve around. They certainly don't curve around towards the top of the buttocks, which is another area where you could use something. Now, what I'll show you about these firstly is, as you can see, this has a honeycomb lattice. So what this does is it really helps to keep down on the weight. Instead of being a solid piece of material, this is sort of lattice, almost like sort of beehive style, but it's not hexagonal, they're round holes. And these holes are taking some of that density out of this. It's removing some of that material and it's allowing it to be that little bit lighter. And to be quite frank, these don't feel much heavier than my much smaller ones. So this would be on the left thigh, curving around behind. So this would be coming around the top of the buttocks. This is covering and enhancing the thigh itself, and this is enhancing the hip. Nice thin edges, very nice thin edges on all of this. And looks very good. The fact that you've got a good surface area here, I'm going to guess that this is going to have a fairly good grip to the skin because you've got all this sort of friction here. It's going to grip fairly well, but you'll need something to hold it in place, whether it's tight, Spanx, something along those lines, just to hold this in place. So we have these two. That's really exciting. I'm looking forward to wearing these. They look fab. And the colour is exactly as I would typically have. So the colour's great as well. Okay, so that's item number one. So we'll see what these come on like later. I'll just put these to one side. So item number two is here. So here we go. So again, nicely wrapped up, very discreet, no concerns over what it is or what might be inside, certainly no issues with any potential damage. So I shall put the box to one side now. So we have our bubble wrap exterior again, which I shall just try to remove. And here, so we have this. So this is the plate, and this is in the colour 4, which is the same as the other plates that I have. So it's a good colour for my skin in particular. And this is the D cup. So I'm just going to hold this up so you can see there just what we've got here in terms of the actual size of this. This is the D cup. This fastens over the neck, as you can see, so it clips up around the back of the neck. Your neck is essentially in this hole here. Okay, then you have the whole of the front plate, which is covering up the neck. And then we have the size D, massive, forms. Now this is the gel filled version, so if I show you these, again, very nice sort of gel filled, very soft touch. And this is as we look like here. So YouTube has a funny thing of demonetizing me every time you even show cleavage. So any of my videos, any of my videos where I actually show cleavage of any form get instantly demonetized by YouTube, which is great of them. And so I have to then go through a whole process to get them remonetized. So I won't show you too much of what some of this actually looks like, but you can see it through the website from Gene. But I will show you what these look like on. But these are fantastic. So I'm thrilled by this. I'm really looking forward to these. These look huge, but they look fab. Much bigger than the size C's that I have. I'm looking forward to do something in the way of comparison, just to see how well they stack up against each other. Anyway, let's leave this unboxing bit right now, and we'll go on to next week, where I shall, through the magic of time travel, be showing you what these actually look like. Okay, thanks so much. Bye. Bye. Okay, so let's have a think about general shape and sizing. So this is me as I typically stand on a day-to-day basis. This is my kind of masculine figure. I'm just wearing a padded bra at the moment. Nothing else to change or accentuate my figure in any way. And as you can see, I kind of have whatever I've got going on with my hips, which are, as most guys' hips are, relatively straight up and down. And I've got a kind of wider chest going on up here and not so much definition on my waist. When you're wearing your shapewear, and we'll try it on today, what you're looking for really is to try to expand that out, expanding this hips area, giving you that curve. And you can do a lot of that without actually needing to do anything to pull your waist in. There are really two ways of doing this. You either pull your waist in, or you expand your hips and your cleavage out. And one of those two things, sometimes combining the two of them, can give you the results you're looking for. So to talk about hips, what I'm going to do for today is I'm going to use tights and garment wear to really test out these hips and see how these are working for me. I'm going to get them on and give you a bit of an idea of how I've actually layered those on and how I have constructed those. So here we are, the hip pads themselves. As you can see, much larger than the ones I usually wear. You've got the moulding on the back here, which is going to help with the weight. If I compare these, roughly speaking, I would say that there's about twice as much material on each hip pad as with the typical ones I normally wear. And we're going to wear these coming round the side here and basically completely fleshing out this area and giving us extra dimension. So I'll put these on and then take a little look and give you an idea of what they look like when they're applied and how I'm then using that as part of the overall ensemble. Okay, so this is us now with the hip pads applied. I've got on several layers here, so I'll just go through what I've done. I've applied the hip pads so that they're coming up here towards my waist, extending down the thigh and curving round at the back here. So this is giving me much more width and definition around this area, as you'd expect with something that's quite so large. Now, a couple of tips just to go through here. First thing I would say is that with these hip pads, because you don't have any adhesion, you're going to need several layers of, let's say, compression to hold these in place and to make sure they don't move around. I don't think a couple of pairs of tights on their own are going to really do the job, and I'm using Spanx. So if I show you these ones, which I have here, I use Spanx like these. Now these are my longer leg version. This type of Spanx will hold hip pads in place down towards the bottom of the thigh. They're extremely sort of tight and sort of create a lot of resistance, especially when they're pulling in your tummy. And these are fantastic for holding in place your hip pads. I find that these on their own will do a pretty good job of holding them in, but with a couple of pairs of tights, etc. layered on, then you're good to go. It's all nice and secure and you're not going to have any issues. And then you get a nice sort of silhouette underneath your dress, and you're kind of completing one half of your outfit, getting your hips and kind of your bum going quite nicely in conjunction with this. It's also got a little bit of pull in around the tummy, and that's quite nice as well, so it helps just to tuck things in slightly here and hold things in place. Spanx are also good because they create what is quite a nice sort of smooth outline that runs from just under your bra line here all the way down, depending on where you're wearing them, to somewhere around your thighs. And that long line will cover up some of the material where you've got the top of the waistband of your tights, which might be showing slightly, depending on how tight the actual dress is you're wearing. If you're wearing something quite loose and flowing, you're not going to have an issue. But if you're wearing something that's very tight fitting, then you need something that's going to try and smooth over those layers and create a nice, very smooth silhouette and hourglass. So I really like these items. I think the hip pads are great. They definitely create a better overall sort of impression than the other ones I wear, which tend to just sort of stick onto the thigh here and don't give you that all-round kind of natural curve. I'm still finding my way with exactly how I want to position them. The shape that they have, which is a sort of bulge with the line down the thigh, it's obviously quite easy to position the thigh where you want it to be, but I'm just kind of working things out with where I want to position the actual rear of the pads, how far I want them to come. Do I want them sort of at the top of my natural buttocks, or do I want them kind of towards the middle? It's really just a kind of experimentation, working things through type thing, but it's going pretty well so far, so I'm quite happy with that. At least I've got good definition shape with these so far, and they're good for that. So I think we'll go on to trying on the actual breastplate itself now. So if I go through the breastplate, and then I'll give you an idea of what everything looks like as it's sort of coming together. Okay, so this is the fully sort of put together ensemble with the breastplate. Now what I'm going to say firstly about this is that I've chosen not to wear my hair so you can see what's going on the edge of the breastplate here, and I'll get a bit closer to the camera so you can see that. Also so you can see what's going on around the back here. This breastplate is not strapped up at the back, so it's strapped up around the neck and it's held in place purely by the neck here. Now I think that's quite a good thing because I'm conscious that this is actually around my neck. I can feel the weight of it. Obviously you can feel the weight of this, but I'm also finding that as I wear this, the weight of it is sort of obviously holding everything down, and gravity is working with you to a certain extent. I don't feel like I need to worry about this lifting away from me, just purely because of the weight of it. So having something around the back here, which is going to expose you on the back here potentially, and it's going to be slightly under a dress and won't be covered by a hairline, I think it's actually quite a good thing that you don't have that. So this is purely around the neck. I'll get a little bit closer and show you what this looks like as you put it all together. Okay, so let's have a look at this item and kind of show you how it all kind of comes together up front here. Now, this light in this room has been particularly kind to me at the moment, and it's, at least as I look in the camera, it looks like you're not able to see very much of the sort of colour match between my skin and the actual breastplate itself, so that's a good thing to start with. But I'm wearing colour 4, so in the range that's produced by Boobsshop, this is the colour 4. And I think this is a good match for me. I've got my other ones in the same colour, so this is kind of, it's kind of a tried and tested colour for me. I've felt no reason to differ from this. And certainly in the winter months when I'm most likely to wear this, it's a good matchup and it works pretty well for me. So let's have a look at this item. So if I show you on the back here, this is where you've got the clasp. So you can clearly see here that you've got this round the back of the neck. There's nothing you're going to be able to do about this. This is You're always going to have something at the back of the neck, which means that with a shorter hairstyle, kind of like I'm wearing today, you are not going to be able to hide this. In order to hide that, you're going to need a longer hairstyle, something very feminine anyway, which is going to help you to cover up that area at the back. Also with your dress choice, if your dress like this is strappy, which can basically worn this kind of style and it's going to be held up by your cleavage, then all of this is going to be visible. So if we have a look at this here, all of this line is going to be absolutely visible. So the further I get away from the camera, the more likely you are to be fooled by this. But when I get up close, you'll see very clearly this is obvious. It's not something you can hide. It's always going to be there and you're going to need to find a way to deal with that. Now, I would typically go for a certain type of dress that would help along with this. So this kind of dress, to give you an example, this dress from Boohoo, this is coming around the collar. And it's just a very nice short dress, over the shoulder, coming around the collar here, black. This is going to cover up all of this. However, you're going to see nothing of the cleavage. You'll get the shape, but you won't see anything of the cleavage. You're not going to get anything to kind of enhance your look or show off. Really, as part of the point of having these things is to have that cleavage be visible. So you're going to need something different, which is where I turn to this kind of pink dress. Now I've got another item underneath this, so ignore the green item underneath. But this pink dress does a really good job for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's got the lace here, which is going to show some of the cleavage through the actual dress, but it's covering, it's supporting, and it's giving you a bit of help with managing the weight of this. The main thing, however, is that as it comes up over the neckline here, it's going to be cutting off the majority of this material that you can see. So it's going to be coming up around about to here. And as it does that, it's going to leave you with just this area coming up over towards the neck. And that's going to be your potential exposed area. That's where your hair then kind of bridges that gap. And a long wig will then allow you to cover this over and close off that gap. So a combination of a good shoulder-based top, something like this, like a dress, this kind of pink dress, which is from, it's the Amy Childs collection. Something like this is going to go well. This kind of dress, as you can see, it's got the lace at the back. So if this did fasten up around the back as well, you're going to have a lot of problems with that showing through here. And it's going to be quite obvious through the back of this dress. Probably below the actual line of your hair anyway. This kind of dress now, without anything on the back, isn't going to show that. It's going to be your natural back line. Nothing showing in this area here. You'll have the back of the neck will be visible. Obviously with a long wig, that's going to be covered up. You're not going to have that problem. So if we look at this with the, in general, I think this is a really nice style. I think this works fantastically. It gives massive sort of curves. I think that's the main thing to say about this. It gives massive curves and it's really, really helpful. If we try this on, let's have a look at what this does when we try it on with this pink dress and see how that kind of helps out with the overall ensemble. Okay, so with this pink dress on now, what you can see is how you're getting more coverage here on the edge area here. You can still see some of this going on underneath this material, but effectively this is covering up quite nicely. It's giving you something that's a little bit more manageable so that when you have your hair on, it's now going to be coming down that little bit more and you're going to get more of a seamless, subtle line. Now, one thing to say is that obviously with this dress, because it is quite tight, you're seeing nipples through this. So if you don't want to see that, then you need to do something with covers or something to protect against that so it's not quite so visible. This is a sticky strap-free bra. You pull off this plastic, which then adheres to the breast, and it's used by women to create a natural cleavage, basically just by drawing everything in. You can tighten and adjust these strings in the middle to help pull things in together. Now, obviously these don't need pulling in, but this is something that you can wear underneath if you don't want anything showing in terms of straps, and that will help to cover it up. It will create a bit of a shape here and you need to watch out for what's visible, but it's better than having a bra which is then visible here. You can also buy the pads that just stick straight over the top and will cover up that nipple. If I show you what these look like on, so now that I've applied those shaping bra onto here as well, that's now adhesive and sticking to this. Again, you can see this is covering up the nipples. It's now not so visible. And even though you've got some kind of lines available here, it's not really going to show too much because it's creating a solid, smooth outline all the way around this area here. So it's not going to show particularly, and this then helps you keep that bra sort of strapless look going whilst having a more discreet, let's say, nippleless outline to your dress. So that works very well as well. So if we put this all together with hair, and I'll just get a wig on very quickly, then you can kind of see how this all comes together as an ensemble. Okay, so now as it's all coming together as an ensemble, you can see how the hair is covering up all of that neckline. You're not really seeing anything. The choker here is covering up around your actual neck itself, so you've got nothing visible here. You can wear all sorts of different styles of chokers. They're really quite simple to buy. If you go for a choker style thing on Amazon, I picked this one up for a few pounds. I think it's about £10, something like that, £10. I think it's about £10, something like that for this one. They're quite cheap, economical, easy to get hold of. Now at the back here, because you've got the hairline, you're no longer able to see any of that at the back of the neck. So with the Velcro, one thing I would say is make sure you get it fastened up on the back before you then apply the wig. You're going to get some catching of your wig in the Velcro, particularly when you come to take it off at the end of the evening, but that's kind of unavoidable. The main thing is to say, do not put your hair on and then try and fasten up for whatever reason your clasp at the back here, because you're going to get a problem. You're going to get hair trapped in it. It's going to be pulling. You're going to go to lean forward and it's going to get trapped in the back. It's going to be really irritating to you for most of the evening. So don't do that. Get your breastplate firmly on, secured where you want it to be, wig on last, and you're good to go. Okay, so let's now do the full body outline. This is now the full outline and silhouette of this particular pink dress. I've got the size D gel-filled breastplate from Boobsshop, which I'm wearing here. I've got the large hip pads from Boobsshop, which are under 3 pairs of tights and 1 pair of Spanx, which is giving me a bit of extra pull in at the midriff here. I can do more to make this more seamless, but for the purposes of getting dressed up and changed and doing stuff around today, this is giving you that overall sort of image and look of what this looks like when you put it all together. So for me, I think this is a fantastic purchase. The hip pads are great. These are by far and away the best hip pads I've ever owned. The size of them alone means you get a much more overall dramatic shape that you can work with, and I find these are really helping to define. I need to work on my positioning a little bit. I think I've got them slightly off today, but I generally speaking, I like it. I think they give you good definition around the back as well, so you're getting a bit of extra line here, which is good definition on the thighs and particularly on the hips, and I think overall they make for a really good outline. The breastplate itself, the size D from Boobsshop, the feel is, as usual, really fantastic. It's a great feel to it. It really does make this kind of big glam dress go totally over the top and fantastic and amazing. And for that, if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for that big, really wow glam look, I think this is the way to go. So for me, it's between a C and a D cup. I really like those. I think the C is kind of perfect for me. And it will be my go-to item, I think, for the most part. But sometimes when I'm looking for something that creates a really wow, glam, awesome image, I think I'm going to have to bust out the size Ds, and that's going to be the one to go with. So I think you'll see a little bit more of these as I go forward. So just to recap again, delivery was fantastic, really fast this time. Took days to get here, felt like it arrived amazingly fast. No issues with customs, no issues with clearance or with postage or tracking. Everything worked really smoothly, so that was great. The items themselves very well packaged, as we saw, very secure. No way of knowing what's inside. It's marked up as sort of costume type items, so it has to come through customs. There has to be some description of what the contents are, but it's very generic and there's nothing to really give away what it is that you're buying. They're well packaged, very secure, not going to have an issue with, let's say, damage. And where I've heard of this happening in the past, Gina has been very quick to kind of resolve any issues around damage or lost goods or anything else like that. So I've only ever had positive experience. Everything's arrived and it's been well delivered, good packaging, nice, simple process, no issues, etc. In terms of colour, these are The colour is sort of quite generic for the hip pads because for the most part it's going to be underneath things, so you're really just picking from a couple of kind of generic colours. For the breastplate itself, I've gone with the colour 4 again, as I mentioned. That works really well for me. It's great for winter time. In summer it looks a bit light, but if you're going to tan, there's always going to be a little of that. You're going to have to live with that. That's just part of the process of having these things. You're not going to be able to do that. If you want to do anything to sort of cover these or to do cosmetics or foundation on them, I never do that. I try to go for a good colour match, and I really don't want the hassle of having to use cosmetics. So I'm definitely not the best person to ask about using foundation or doing anything to kind of blur the lines or to blend this in. I prefer to go for outfits and jewellery that will do that job for me and means that there's less of a hassle with cleaning or maintenance or anything along those lines. So I hope this video was useful for you. If you've got any questions, please let me know in the comment section down below. You can reach Jean at Boobsshop through www.boobsshop.com and have a look at all of the items that they have on their website. Again, it's been a fantastic experience and I thoroughly recommend that. Go along, have a look, see what you think. And if you've got any questions about particular styles, types, etc., you can get me through my email address, which is juliettesnoir@gmail.com, or through the website juliettenoir.uk. Feel free to like, share and subscribe. Look forward to talking to you again soon. And as ever, thanks for joining me today. Bye. Bye.